Every once in a while, a new AI release drops that feels different. It's not just another update, it's a signal that the ground is shifting underneath us. And that's exactly what we're looking at today with Anthropic's Claude Opus 4.6. This is about moving past the idea of a simple chatbot and into something much bigger, a new architecture for genuine AI collaboration. So let's break down what that actually means.
I think anyone who works with AI wrestles with this question, right? We've all seen those jaw-dropping demos. But then you get your hands on it, and you realize there's this huge gap between a cool demo and a reliable partner that can actually handle complex, messy, multi-step projects without you having to constantly babysit it. So how do you bridge that gap?
Well, Anthropic is essentially saying, this is how. They're not calling Opus 4.6 just another update. They're specifically calling it a step change. And that's a big deal. It's engineered for two things: way more advanced reasoning and real autonomous agency. In other words, it's designed to finally close that gap. So let's dive into the 4 key pillars that make this release so interesting. All right, first up, intelligence. But here's the twist. This isn't about chasing higher scores on the same old tests we always see. Anthropic is going after a totally different kind of reasoning, the kind that's way harder to measure on a spreadsheet, but infinitely more valuable in the real world. And this quote from Anthropic, it really gets to the heart of their entire philosophy. The goal isn't just to build a walking encyclopedia. It's about cracking the code on common sense. That intuitive, creative problem-solving that's second nature to us, but has been this massive, stubborn wall for AI systems forever. So, how do you even test for that? Well, check out this number. This is Opus 4.6's score on a really tough benchmark designed specifically for those easy-for-humans, hard-for-AI problems. At 68.8%, it's not just a little better, it's a monumental leap from its older sibling, Opus 4.5, which was stuck down at 37%. And it just blows past competitors like GPT 5.2 on this specific kind of creative reasoning.
Okay, great. It's good at weird puzzles. But what does that mean for actual, work? Well, this is where it gets really interesting. On tasks that have real economic value, think complex finance or legal work, Opus 4.6 doesn't just squeak by. It establishes a whole new state-of-the-art. That 144 ELO point lead means that if you put it head-to-head against the next best model, it wins about 70% of the time. That's not a small difference. That's dominance.
So you have this incredibly powerful new reasoning engine. Now, what can you do with it? That brings us to the second and maybe the most futuristic pillar of this release, a feature they're calling agent teams. This is where we go from having a single assistant to commanding an entire autonomous workforce. So what are agent teams? Well, think of it this way. Instead of hiring one brilliant but totally overwhelmed intern, you can now deploy a whole team of specialized AI agents. You give them a complex goal, and they autonomously figure out how to break it down, work on different pieces at the same time, and then coordinate with each other to deliver the final product. It's a peek at a future managed by collaborating AI swarms. Let's make that more concrete. Take a notoriously painful task, like reviewing a huge, messy code base. With agent teams, the system can break that problem down, spin up multiple agents to analyze different sections of the code in parallel, have them argue and coordinate their findings, and then hand you a single, unified report at the end. For developers, that is a massive, massive force multiplier.
And of course, they have the data to back it up. This chart shows performance on a benchmark that tests how well an AI agent can actually code inside a real computer terminal. And yep, Opus 4.6 just set the new high score. Now, it's not a huge lead over GPT 5.2, but that's not the point. The point is, it is the new leader in what's becoming one of the most critical areas of AI development.
Okay, so this is all incredibly powerful. But here's the million-dollar question. Can you actually use this stuff at scale? Is it practical? Is it affordable? Well, that takes us to our third pillar, making all this power ready for the enterprise.
Let's start with this big number, 1 million. That's the token context window. What that really means is the model can now hold and reason over an absolutely enormous amount of information at once. We're talking entire books, massive financial reports, or your company's entire code base. This is absolutely essential for those really complex, long-running tasks. But here's the thing about huge context windows. Even 1 million tokens will eventually run out on a really long agentic task. The AI would just forget what happened at the beginning. So Anthropic built a really clever feature called context compaction. It's like the AI is automatically taking notes on the older parts of the conversation, summarizing the important bits to free up memory. It's a simple idea, but it allows these agents to run for way, way longer without getting lost.
And finally, the cost. Let's be real, running these models can get expensive. So for those giant, non-urgent jobs, like analyzing a month's worth of customer feedback, there's a new batch API. The bottom line? You bundle up your requests, send them off, and you get a 50% discount. That is a game changer for making this tech economically viable at scale.
So we've looked at the new reasoning power, the agent teams, the enterprise features. But let's zoom out for a second. What's the real story here? What is Anthropic signaling to the rest of the industry with this launch?
Well, this table kind of says it all. You just have to look at the numbers. Across the key capabilities that really matter for building autonomous agents, complex knowledge work, agentic coding, and web browsing, it's pretty much a clean sweep. Opus 4.6 isn't just in the race anymore. It's setting the new state-of-the-art across the board.
And that brings us to the real takeaway of this whole thing. This release is so much more than just a smarter model. It's a strategic pivot away from single-shot prompts and towards long-horizon systems. All these features, agent teams, context compaction, even new controls to tune the model's effort, they're not just random bells and whistles. They are the literal foundational building blocks for creating reliable, autonomous AI that an enterprise can actually trust with meaningful work.
Which brings us right back to where we started. When you combine this state-of-the-art reasoning with a whole new architecture designed for complex, autonomous teamwork, you end up with something that feels less like a clever tool and more like a genuine collaborator. And that really leaves us with one final big question. Are we witnessing the moment the architecture for that future finally clicked into place?